The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to a Saturday morning pregame edition of Hail Varsity Radio, getting you geared up for Nebraska-Purdue. Elijah Herbel, joined by Mark Kraynak. I'm not going to say Schmidt is the reason we're late here today, but there is a notable face that you're used to see on a Saturday morning that isn't here. I'll leave it at that as we take you into it, though, and get you all geared up. We got Brandon Vogel, Gary Sharp coming your way here. Their usual spots on the Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity Radio. And Mark, what a beautiful shirt you have on.
Well, and it is homage to NASCAR Eric. So I sent you all the picture, but last week I went to the Royals Giants game down in Kansas City. By the way, how's the audio? Is it good? Do I need to turn down my mic a little?
No, you're perfect.
Good. Well, go on. Yeah, chilling in the outfield, watching the game. Had great seats, by the way. Highly recommend them, right? Highly recommend. So outfield, first row, next to the bullpen. Perfect. There's a lot of action that happens around there, right? A lot of home runs. You can pester the people in the bullpen for a ball, if you get the kid. So that happened. But I'm just chilling, and then Eric rolls up. I hadn't met him in person, and he had spotted me and had apparently heard of the show that I was going to the game. So he just rolls up. He's like, "What's up, NASCAR Eric?" I'm like, "What's up?" And so that was great. It was awesome to connect with Eric down there. And then I just remembered he gave me this wonderful blouse a while ago. And so yeah, sporting it. There is room, business owners, right here for another logo, right? Scooters, maybe coffee, some sort. I'm not gonna gives category exclusivity here, whatever, we it could be Midol. I don't care, just it could be anything right there. There's plenty of room.
Preparation H right there.
Yeah, right. That actually would not be a bad thing. I mean, it's probably in our demo. I guarantee there's a few people watching right now that have applied Preparation H in the last couple of days. I would just be willing to venture that. I don't think anybody's going to admit it. I don't think they're going to admit it, but we can all be friends here. They can admit it.
You made it in.
Mm-hmm.
How we doing?
Yeah, welcome to the show, Schmitty.
Yeah, nice to have you.
Good to see y'all, man.
Oh, yeah, the founder, the Godfather, finally he makes his appearance. Just
there were questions
from the clouds.
about your status.
Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Jeff Snitley asked if I fell out the golf cart. It was decided that Mama was going to drive the golf cart last night, and she's never driven a golf cart. And I ended up jumping in with our old buddy Jared, and let's just say it was a little problematic for her to drive the cart.
Really?
Oh, it's like she was learning how to drive. She was uncertain.
So it was accelerator.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe she should have worn this shirt just to add irony to the whole thing.
I think so. Awesome. I was not on a heater last night, but as soon as I saw that field go wide right for the third time by Wazoo, I smiled and I texted Elijah. Elijah texted me, leg one of the parlay complete last night.
Yeah. Hey, Tuck has a good comment here, and Walter alluded to it. Smitty, we're talking Preparation H. Please save us, he says. Oh, yeah. It was because we were just saying there is room on this shirt still for another logo. And we were saying the category really doesn't matter. We can include anything. Elijah suggested Preparation H.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know which conglomerate owns them. I'm going to say Johnson & Johnson probably.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll get a heavy dose of Johnson & Johnson today.
Ooh, look at that.
Hey, maybe.
That's a pro.
By the way, and then I did postulate that there's probably one of our viewers or listeners, like that Preparation H might be in our demo. Like there's probably one of our viewers or listeners that has applied Preparation H recently in the last couple of days. I don't expect them to admit it in the stream, but they're welcome to.
I like how they have not bought advertising with us, yet they're still getting a great advertising spot here on a Saturday morning.
Let's be honest, last Friday night was a Preparation H game.
Oh my God. What is up with Matt Rule has such a tough job because it is true. If you are in the stadium, that feeling, the despondence,
you tell me you're East Stadium, you're there, you've been there for first game we ever went to. You were a season ticket holder. Was Tommy Armstrong's first start, right?
Yeah.
So what was that? 2013.
Whenever they opened the East Stadium, I think it was 2012, 2013.
Yeah. So you've been there, dude, and you've gradually seen it go from up here down here when things would get tight, and the place died after the missed field goal.
It is palpable. It is palpable, the feeling that comes over. It's not everybody, but I would say it's enough people that it's almost like the vibe, uncertainty gets reinforced by the crowd, right? So if there are players that are feeling it, they're kind of getting, there's some sympathy that's happening. Everybody else is just like, people just get quieter. They're not saying as much. I think my boy is a good barometer too in some ways. He was just like, I want to leave because he had seen that movie unfold so many times. He knew what was coming. He knew it. I was like, don't worry about it. He's looking at me shaking his head like, no, dude, like we know we know this is going to happen. And then after Nebraska went backwards 5,000 yards in the first, in the overtime, I was like, all right, dude, listen.
Yeah. I might be staring at you saying, I told you so.
I'm sorry.
On the way to the car.
After Illinois scored, we didn't even watch Nebraska go back. We watched that on the screen on the elevator going down. It was just like, so Matt Rule's job is not only to have his players have to overcome that too, right? Like, and I don't even what is that? Because it's different players, it's different coaches, it's different teams, different situations. And I like how Matt Rule broke it down practically, where when he's talking about the long run to open overtime, he basically said a safety got sucked in, and right. So was that safety that got sucked? I don't even know who it was on the play. I didn't watch. I didn't rewatch it, but that's not that's not normal behavior, right? And it's a different player than probably has done something like that in the past. And how do you stamp that out? How do you stamp out, you're doing all these things right? The guys are going to the workouts when they should. They're eating what they should. They're showing up on time, except for maybe one guy that boarded a plane to San Francisco. They're doing all the things that they're supposed to do. And they're competent players. They understand the scheme, all those things. But then for some reason, when it comes down to it, it's just one guy. If the safety doesn't get sucked in, the safety just goes where he goes, and they get a 4-yard play. Who knows what we're even talking about today?
It's a trust thing. It's unfortunate because a guy that 9 times out of 10 has made the right play in the moment makes the wrong play.
But how does that happen over and over? And
they've never had it. They've never had it go. They've never had it go right.
And then how does it happen? Those overtime numbers, which I know have been talked about ad nauseum by now, but just 8 straight overtimes, 4 picks, no points, no first downs, if I'm not mistaken. And by the way, when did the overtime rules shift to take you back to the 25-yard line versus the 10? When was that?
It's been 25 forever.
Are you sure?
How they changed it is now you go 25-yard line, and then the second overtime you go 25-yard line, and then you just go with the 2-point battle now moving forward. Where it used to was it after the third overtime it moved into the 10?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I remember, because Bielema and Illinois did that at Penn State. Remember that? When they had that battle where it was like 7 overtimes, and they were doing plays from the 10, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. So it wasn't that long ago.
That was when they flipped it's to the 2-point battle now after 2 overtimes. You have the 2 regular overtimes, then they stick the ball at the 2-yard line, and it's a 2-point battle essentially to see who's going to win the football game. And that flipped, is that 3 years ago?
2019, because 2018 was the infamous LSU A&M game where it was 75-74, something like that, because of 500 points in overtime.
I can't believe that anyone in college football saw that game and was like, this shows why overtime is broken. That was the best overtime game.
That was the best game ever.
I know.
And one of the powers that be in college football, watched that beauty of a game and was like, you know what?
Can't have them running too many plays.
We need to fix this. Are you kidding me? That was an awesome 7 overtime game that ended up, I think the final score was like 73-70 or something crazy like that. 77.
We got to shout out Rick. He got in at 6:07 this morning.
Oh, Rick,
appreciate you. He's got his score prediction. Nebraska healthy cover.
Also, shout out to Jonathan, an hour outside West Lafayette.
Good for you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. We invite you to check in Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe, tell a buddy. Hail Varsity Twitter at HVarsity Radio, Mark Kraynak, Fashionable, Elijah Herbel at Herbal Essence, Chris Schmidt will be ready to rock the post-game show. Real Red Reaction as soon as Nebraska and Purdue end. I'm going to move the old TV out to the patio today. I'm going to throw stuff on the grill.
Smart.
And just watch some ball out there, man. Junior just got up and left, apparently to go lift. I think he got home at 2 a.m. from homecoming last night.
And already in the gym.
Look at him. He made it home from homecoming. Congrats.
Yeah, because
I'm calling it homecoming for nothing, Dad. You knew I'd be here.
His mama was like, what time did you ask him to come home? I'm like, sweetie, I told him 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, well, it could have been 1:30.
Yeah.
She's already gone. She's working today.
Your bunny voice is really flattering if you're her. You know,
the inspiration is Linda Blair from The Exorcist.
We won't talk anything about what she said about Jesus. My goodness. Why are we bringing this up now? What, you know, what?
Back to football.
That is disturbing.
Uncle Larry.
We could use. How about an exorcism, by the way? Can Bunny do that?
I don't know.
I said that last week as a solution to the 1-score losses for Nebraska football. Get the best exorcist money can buy.
I'm serious, though. Yeah, because that's ridiculous, man. It's gotten to it is. I don't even know what to do. You don't even know what to do.
Are you worried about today, Kraynak? Are you worried about today?
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's not a. Yes, I know Purdue's not good. That's obvious. We know Purdue's not good, but if they can do anything well, it's they can run outside with Maccabee. Maccabee ran all over Nebraska before.
200 yards, dude.
Yeah, and they've given up 300 plus yards 2 games in a row. But you're talking Notre Dame, you're talking Oregon State. Running quarterbacks were part of that mix. That could mean that you could see some Harburg today, not because Raiola's not capable, obviously, not because he's in danger of losing his job, but matchup-wise, Tuck says Smitty must be on a plane to San Francisco. Matchup-wise, they struggle with the mobile quarterback. Harburg has not been used a lot yet this year. So I could see them featuring him a little more heavily today just to take advantage of that specific kind of malady that the Purdue defense has. The
concern for me, and Brennan kind of nails it here, is he says we've lost to some below average Purdue teams before.
Straight up.
And that's what last week did. is last week kind of brought back that old scar tissue from Husker Nation of this team is not fixed. This team still has the same issues as it had before. And the same issues as before would lead you to believe that Nebraska would drop a game to a below average Purdue team. That's where the concern comes from. Because I think if you look at this game on paper, Nebraska has a lot of advantages in this football game. Particularly the number one I look at is the quarterback position. You have Dylan Raiola. You feel good about that. But a scar tissue, like rip up game that we had last week with Nebraska, Illinois makes you look at this game with a lot of concern in your eyes. Because if they aren't past those same issues as before, Purdue's going to cause you issues because I've seen them do it before.
Can we rewind a couple weeks ago to before the Northern Iowa game? And I was being called negative, like, oh, Debbie down a muck, right? When we were just
not happy with a 28-10 win.
Well, right, but it was in reaction to there was such a there was something in the air where it felt like all the talk, all the fans, all the everything was like, well, Nebraska finally slayed the dragon, and they're good to go. Everything is fine. Everything's fine. And it's just like, what? No. They beat a Colorado team that's got a really porous defense, and Nebraska has not dominated anybody. I don't think. The only thing, no, you could say the defensive pressure did that to UTEP and Colorado, but that's kind of it. Nebraska has not run all over anybody on the ground. I don't even think Raiola's played really well. I'm not saying Raiola's but it hasn't been go look at what Indiana's been doing, right? And Indiana's been just smoking teams, like rolling them up. No doubter, 30, 40-point wins, 500 yards, 700 yards. Nebraska's been putting up pedestrian offensive numbers, again, save for Raiola and his accuracy, getting close to 300 each time. But Nebraska hasn't been rolling up anybody, at all. And then you finally go, you go from UTEP, one of the worst defenses in America, to Colorado, one of the worst defenses and worst offensive lines, both of those teams, to Northern Iowa, who had some success on the ground. Nebraska had a little trouble getting them off the field, to a competent outfit, Illinois, not great at anything, but pretty good at everything. And yeah, that was just a straight up battle. Right? Straight up battle.
And as we welcome Brandon Vogel to the show here, I think the flip side of that argument is you look at Purdue, and Illinois is competent at everything, as you said, Mark. There's been a lot of areas of the game this year where Purdue has been less than competent. And that's the flip side. The hope for today is that it's a get-right game for Nebraska.
Well, Purdue, people that follow Purdue don't even know if Walter is going to survive the year, right? Like it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad right now.
It's real bad, and we say hi to Vogues at counterread.com. Vogues up and early with us on a Saturday, man. Thanks for popping in. You've seen this moment before over the years with Nebraska football, as Elijah alluded to with the get right game. And too many times, bro, it's been Nebraska has been the get right game for somebody else. Do you think it's going to be a white knuckler again, or can this thing be all right, Nebraska went on the road, handled their business, and looked better. They got better from last Friday.
I think the latter is the slightly more probable outcome in my mind, but I don't feel that certain about it. Like maybe it's 55-45 in that direction of Nebraska comes out, looks like about a 10-point favorite. And, I wrote this in my game preview this week, and it's tough in the week after a loss like this, particularly one where you have an extra day before you play, to understand the context. So if Nebraska does that, say they come out, they win, I predicted 28-13. Say they win that way. It's a little bit sluggish. It's not dominant, but they get back on track. Then you can frame that Illinois loss as you lost in overtime to what was a top 25 team then, and still is. We'll see where they end up at the end of the year. That said, it's never good / okay. Good teams don't lose at home as touchdown favorites. And a touchdown's not huge. anything around the touchdown mark tells you this game could very easily go to overtime, which last week's game did. But in terms of taking a step from where Nebraska left off in 2023, winning all your home games is always a big deal, particularly those that you're favored in, and they weren't able to get that done. So now, basically, for the remainder of the season, can Nebraska get one back somewhere? And we'll see. Nebraska should win today. I think that Rutgers line will be pretty tight. That'll be pretty close to a coin flip. And at this point, you'd make Nebraska an underdog going to Indiana. So it's Nebraska has a chance over these kind of next 3 games to, I think, make up some ground that it lost against Illinois. That said, like everybody else, I think almost my confidence level in that was shaken by last week.
Rule Today had commented, probably lies somewhere in the middle, overhyped after Colorado, not as bad as Mark thinks. I don't think it's that bad. I'm just saying I didn't think it was that good. Right? Like, everybody had talked as though Nebraska was like a preeminent power and totally back and reestablished. And it's just like, no, they got a couple W's against inferior competition. Colorado 3-1, by the way. A little surprising. Good on them. Makes Nebraska's win look better. But the second half was tough in that game. Nebraska couldn't move the ball. Nebraska couldn't score points. They started to pick up some yards. Like, it's just Nebraska is no better to me than just I think they can still be good. And by good, I just mean top 50. They don't appear to be a top 20 outfit right now. And Brandon, to get back to why your confidence level is down a little bit, let's zero in a little bit defensively, where, look, Tony White's 3-3-5 was novel last year. New. It's very unique in the college football world. It's not the easiest thing to prepare for. Nebraska had great success defensively last year, in part because of that. But teams figure it out a little bit. Do you feel like there are, like, what Illinois exploited, and then to a degree what Northern Iowa did? Northern Iowa didn't have enough horses to fully capitalize. Do you think those are things that just stick with Nebraska this year, or something that can be overcome schematically, that White can make adjustments and maybe be a little bit less predictable? Because it just felt like whatever Nebraska was doing defensively, Illinois expected and was able to scheme around it.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a piece of this that is just familiarity of, Nebraska's been in this scheme for a year, so teams have plenty to look at. I also think Nebraska's been a little bit more vanilla so far this season in its defensive looks, and I think that was justifiable when you look at the strength of the D line and the emphasis they put on being able to win with a 4-man rush. And against UTEP and Colorado, teams that wanted to throw the ball a ton, worked great. Against Northern Iowa, I think you saw a team that was able to scheme around it a little bit, but as an FCS team, couldn't quite push it to the limit the way an Illinois could. And I mean, the amount of success Illinois had both ways, throwing the ball and running the ball, mostly in the second half, was pretty shocking. We haven't seen a lot of numbers like that from Nebraska's defense since, well, Rule mentioned it. I mentioned it on the show last Saturday because we were doing post game at that point. It stands out as like last year's Michigan game and last week against Illinois in terms of truly rough days for the defense. So I do think there's a way that White and the defensive staff can address that. Tackling's come up for 2 straight weeks, but I also think they have an aggressiveness button they can push that they didn't push as often as they did a year ago, because last year defense was your best chance to win, and it was go out there and try and make a play and hopefully the offense can support you with enough points. Now you feel a little bit better about the offense, putting up at least an average number of points. But last week showed, it would be interesting to get the unfiltered truth of how Nebraska would play that Illinois game defensively again if they had it to do over.
Bogues, I want to dive into, you're going to have guys on the field situationally, and that blueprint is out. When you got your speed rushers on the field there, you can run at them. And that's what Illinois did. Princeville and Jamari specifically versus, Sherman and another edge option. You've got guys that their strength is pass rush versus run stopping. So that's something that, you need to be able to do it all when you get on the field, just like you need to be able to do it all as a running back for Nebraska, pass block and presumably hit that home run that Rule wants in the run game. So Nebraska's still trying to get caught up there. It's just fascinating, though, how the defense is where it's at right now, because that was supposed to be the comfort. Offensively was supposed to be, okay, how long do they need their training wheels on before they can start riding? And they look like they're pretty natural at least throwing the football, but yet you're still not 100% certain in the run game. At what point in the year, all these things I just talked about and laid out, can you turn the corner? What's an average timeline? And I know it's different for different teams, but can this team, I think they'll keep getting better, but what do you think they are, what they quote are still? They might get better at, but they're still not going to be what they need to be. Does that make sense?
I think you'd have a pretty true look at things after the Rutgers game. So that'd be the midpoint of the season. So Purdue offensively, we all know about the two running backs, both averaging over 6 yards a carry. Like, they can get some big plays in the running game. They've been top 30 defense or top 30 offense in terms of yards per play on first down, which, has been a struggle for Nebraska. It was a big struggle against Illinois. So that's probably like the matchup that I have circled in red ink going into this one. But, Purdue has also been a very sporadic offense. Like, they have a huge busted drive rate, a huge rate of drives that don't pick up a first down. So it's really boom or bust with them. Rutgers, 2 weeks from now, very completely different, like smashy. They're going to run the football. It's kind of classic Big Ten stuff. So you're going to face two different challenges over these 2 weeks. And where's the defense at after that? And I think it's important to note, Nebraska's defensive numbers are down from where they were at this point a year ago. Like, they're still kind of top 40, top 50, which I think if they ended the year top 40 defense would be a bit of a disappointment. But it could be workable, if you got an offense averaging 28 to 30 points a game still, if they can maintain that pace. So I think in 2 weeks, when we take a look at those numbers, we'll have a pretty good idea of what the ceiling might be for this year's defense. Because after that, the schedule goes way up. I guess maybe that's the better way to look at it. Like, wherever they are after those next two games, like, those numbers, like, both offensively and defensively, probably aren't going up unless something drastically switches, because Indiana, Ohio State, Iowa, Wisconsin, forgetting USC, I'm forgetting somebody, but UCLA. So it's gonna get tough.
Brendan, I asked this question to Brian Christopherson yesterday. I want to reset it to you and ask the question: is it time to throw away what we saw last year with this Husker defense as we evaluate them this year? Because the big talking point, Schmidt kind of laid out, 8 out of 11 starters coming back. They put this on film last year. You can expect yada, yada, yada from them. Is it time to throw that mindset away 4 games in? Or with the amount of guys coming back, do you still think it holds some relevancy in that this defense is still figuring some things out? We saw what they put together last year, and it gives you confidence they're going to be better this year? Or is it just at the point where what they are through 4 games is what they are?
No, I don't think it's time to throw out what we saw last year. We've seen the D line be pretty disruptive at times, and I still think that's the strength of the team. There's something about the rushing numbers that give me a little bit of pause. I mean, last year was really remarkable when you look back at it. It's just like how well and how quickly they just kind of dead ended things. Like teams would try to run on them in first down, and Nebraska would just would stop it, would knock teams off schedule that way. They're not doing that this year. That said, the pass defense has been a little bit better. It's also the 4 games that Nebraska's played is, it's kind of half and half. You had 2 teams that were kind of interested in running the ball at all. So maybe that's a bit of a misleading category at the moment. But, Tony White said in the offseason that they wanted this to be the best defense in the country. Like, what else are you going to say? But for Nebraska, it was kind of in play. It felt realistic. So if you were expecting that, I don't see that unfolding over the 8 games remaining. But I still think this can be a defense that is good enough to get Nebraska to where it wants to go, which I still think, is that 7-8 win mark if you're being realistic about it.
There's a couple things with the last game versus Illinois that really kind of highlight everything we're talking about this morning. But, defensively, the strength with Nash and Ty and Jamari, I still believe that's true. It's not like those guys are worse. I really do feel, though, against Illinois, it just felt like Nebraska got out-coached and out-schemed. And I don't think you see that a ton with Tony White and with Rule. You haven't seen that a lot. But specifically with Nash, there were just multiple times, if you were watching, where he would get doubled, completely washed out of a play, almost like using his aggression against him, right? So if he was slanting right, that's, the blockers came from that side and just washed him out entirely, to where it just appeared like he wasn't expecting it, which gets back to preparation, which gets back to scheme, which gets back to coaching, honestly. Like, it seemed like he was seriously surprised to be that wide, like he's just getting pushed out of the play. And then presumably if you got 2 guys on him, somebody's open to come in and fill that gap. And that just didn't seem to happen as much. So I guess I kind of asked it before too, Brandon, but just getting back to that, do you find that as you watch teams statistically, and, obviously Nebraska's having trouble getting off the field on first down, the third down conversions as a result, not getting off the field on first down, having trouble making negative or short plays on first down defensively. So third downs become easy. Like, is that a hallmark that's probably going to stick with Nebraska, or is it something they can like self-scout and just be like, okay, that's probably a tendency thing that we're doing, we can mix that up? Or do you think it's just going to be part of who they are this year and they have to win a different way defensively?
Yeah, I'm not ready to say that. I mean, after the Colorado game, I wrote about how good the defense had been on first down through 2 games, and then this week I wrote about how far that number specifically had dropped over the 2 weeks. So I think that the worrying part about that, when you look at Nebraska's schedule and just the Big Ten broadly, is like you're gonna face a lot more teams like Illinois than you do UTEP. In the games to come. So, but they were so good at this piece of it a year ago, and so many of those pieces are back, that I do think there's a chance for, coaching staff and the players, kind of with their own self-evaluation to adjust that. I really liked your point about Nash against Illinois, against a player that's that big and strong and can be that dominant. Like, that's kind of sometimes your only option, is just to, like, if he's going to go that way, like, let's just take him that way and try and handle it. But then it becomes kind of the team defense part of it. And that's a piece of it too, not from a number standpoint, just watching the games. Like, last year, Nebraska was so good at leverage and having, forcing players back into their help, and that's gotten away from them a little bit, specifically over the last 2 games. So I think when they talk about tackling, I think that's a piece of it too. Even if a guy isn't missing a tackle, if he goes inside instead of outside, some of those runs start to become pretty big. I think a big piece of this season so far too has been just Nebraska after halftime. It was a concern in the two games where the first two games where Nebraska was ahead comfortably. It didn't bite them. But boy, the things really flipped in that Illinois game last week.
And we say all this where it might sound doom and gloom, but you're trying to make sense of it, right? You're just trying to make sense of where Nebraska's at. But on the flip side, go back over the Illinois game and the amount of empty possessions that Nebraska ended up with compared to, God, an inch this way, inch that way, where it wouldn't have been like that. Like Nayer's pick in the end zone, where Nayer has it and the guy wrestles it out. Like, we haven't seen that in like a decade, and we've seen it twice in 2 weeks now with 50-50 balls like that, where it's a quote interception
to him.
I know. The other one was to Lloyd though. Lloyd against Northern Iowa.
Sorry,
right? Yep. But either way, 18 and 19, very similar numbers. I could see. Which to me, why aren't those fumble recoveries instead of? But anyways, those are very weird interceptions. So you got that one, right? So Nebraska all the way down on the doorstep ends up with no points. Ramir Johnson, like reverses out of bounds, wide open. You come up with nothing there, or you get 3. And then the wide open throw to Lindenmeyer, where he misses him by a yard or two. I mean, this game could very easily have been different, but there's one play I want to go way back to is in that first quarter. The Tommy Hill, the fade route for a touchdown, that was truly the easiest fade route completion that Altmaier and that receiver will experience all year. Because somehow, we know now Hill was hurt, but dude, he flipped his hit. I mean, it was like a total cardinal sin of cornerback play.
He thought he had safety help.
Guy's wide open. Yeah, it could have been.
He thought he had safety help.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying it goes to the bigger discussion point of their miscommunication, fellas, on the back end yesterday or last week.
But how Tommy Hill was moving was concerning, right? Because then next possession, they hit him. The guy he was covering, they hit him with a crossing pattern, and Hill's trailing like 6 yards behind the guy. I mean, it wasn't even. I might as well have been out there. He was offering zero defensive resistance, and then they recognize that and they pull him and they get Sierra Wright in. And Wright played great. But even just that, right? Even if there had been just normal coverage in the first quarter on that fade route, they might not have scored, or maybe they got 3. So when we say all this, it's not like Nebraska's so far off, but it's just like, what is that little thing to where you don't come away with just 3 points when you could have had 21 on those 3 possessions, to where you don't bust completely in the first quarter and give up the easiest fade route, right? It's things like that. It feels like detail, and it feels like a little bit of coaching, and obviously players too. But
that gets back to my point I made earlier, because that is such an error. And I know this is the Purdue pregame, so I don't want to harp too much on the Illinois game, but that's the type of thing that you didn't see much of last year at all. Like the miscommunication in the back end of the coverage that leads to an easy touchdown and easy completion. You didn't see much of that. It was never easy for the offenses last year, with the Michigan game maybe being the exception, but that was a team that just came in and physically overpowered you. So it's a different kind. Like you didn't see coverage busts. You didn't see
and knew your plays. I mean,
and that's why I asked, like, is it time to throw away what we saw last year? Because you never saw stuff like that with the miscommunications after the Colorado game. That being said, Colorado's also early in the year, and Nebraska got it figured out. They got some things fixed, and they got better as the year went on. So that's kind of the other question to have here with this Husker defense is if they follow that same script as last year. I mean, they really turned a corner after Colorado, and especially after Michigan, where that defense was playing a lot different.
Brendan Vogel with his counter read. Go ahead, Vogues.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think, like, to some degree, and we saw this last week, it's like, the turnovers, although turnovers weren't really part of it. It was more penalties and like mistakes. And it's the same old Nebraska, which, like, I understand, like pieces of it felt very familiar, but like, this is like why teams lose in general. It's like mistakes, turnovers, penalties, it's these like high leverage plays where it's like, if you hadn't, busted right then and there, you probably come away with a win in that one. But there's also, I think, to the detail piece of this, like the thing that sticks out to me still from that Illinois game, like you knew the two outside receivers were a problem and going to be tough to handle. I even wrote in the preview, like, nice thing is like the tight end isn't a huge threat. Well, the tight end made 2 huge plays, and they also had the tackle eligible play for a touchdown. Like that's like exploiting something that they saw in Nebraska, because I forget the tight end's name now, forgive me, but like you guys watched him run. Like that's a big blocking tight end, but was wide open when they needed him to be. So that's the piece of it that I think when we talk about what can Nebraska address, what can it start addressing, here in a couple hours in West Lafayette, it's those sorts of things.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask Vogues to address his thoughts today on 1, life without Mazuka in West Lafayette, 2, special teams performance today and potential inclement weather. Football is going to be different anyway with wind and potential rain. Fine. But just special teams response today.
Yeah, you would hope it would be good, but it's not an area that I haven't seen enough on special teams front to be supremely confident in that by any means. Bushini's punting well, punted too well in the wrong direction last week. So maybe that becomes a piece of it. I mean, the weather part of it, like, is probably, well, I think it definitely is a bigger factor for Nebraska's offense than it is for Purdue's. I do think if Nebraska kind of committed to the run and stuck with it, they could do it that way too. But Purdue's put up better numbers that way so far. So if the ball's wet, if the ball's slippery, and it hurts the passing game, you might be in for a little bit more of a slugfest than the way this thing looks on paper, which might not be the worst thing for Nebraska, to be in that sort of game and have to find a way to come away with a win. So we'll see what happens there. There's a lot of kind of small detail pieces of this that Nebraska still has quite a bit to prove, and Purdue's reeling. Mark mentioned earlier, like you talk to people there. Like I was just reading the YouTube comments on Ryan Walters' press conference this week, and like they're ready to go to move on at this point. And sure, but it's an 11 a.m. game. It's be gray and somewhat wet. It's just classic Big Ten stuff. And is Nebraska ready to win a game like that, even as a 2-score favorite?
It should be noted here, the chance of rain today in West Lafayette, 25% beginning at kickoff, which continues through the game. So we're looking at a 1 in 4 chance that there's rain at some point in the game today. Does seem like it's staying kind of south and to the southeast of West Lafayette. I know it was raining hard last night up there, which could still lead to a wet field, but rain might stay away for the game today. We'll see.
Okay. So on some of the positive sides, we can balance this. It's not all DEFCON 5. Offensively, say this about Rule. I don't think Nebraska in years past could have survived 3 offensive line starters going down and it not severely impacting what's going on offense. But you lose Prohaska, you lose Corcoran, and now it appears Mazuka. I've lost him too. So that's 3 guys that were, if not starters, starter quality, that are out of the picture. But yeah, you just haven't noticed a huge drop off, right? It feels like Nebraska's rushing, passing, protection numbers just not a whole lot different. So I guess what does that say about Rule and about Raiola and about how Nebraska has stockpiled options across the board? That tide seems to be shifting.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would call it a moderately good sign at this point, because I think Nebraska's future up front is pretty bright. In that way, you don't want to lose starters, but getting somebody like Gatula in there and getting a longer look at him maybe isn't the worst thing. You know, you can look at the other tackle spot, and to be quite honest, like I thought after making some pretty good gains a year ago, Ben Hart has maybe taken a little bit of a step back this year. So hopefully he can, steer out of that. And, young players up there look like young players at times. But I think in terms of development at that spot and depth, yeah, Nebraska's ahead of where it's been recently on the offensive line.
The thing that you don't feel comfortable saying out loud potentially is that these young guys that are in the pipeline, and some of them that are getting thrust forward now, could be way better than the older guys that have been in the program the last 58 years. I mean,
Gatula's Pro Football Focus numbers, and you take those with a grain of salt, right?
After 9 snaps.
But his numbers were, I think, better than any that Corcoran had turned in, just in terms of whatever those grades are, right? I'm not saying it's true, but Corcoran's had some dismal Pro Football Focus numbers.
Guys, you might have just a ton of upside with the Sledges of the world. Evans has been good at guard. Segrin at right. I mean, you've got a next wave. Bricks. Okay, you've got a next wave of dudes that are going to get watered and grow, and then they'll be in. It just so happens that Gatula's got to hustle on out there right now.
One more thing before we get Brandon out and welcome in Mr. Gary Sharp. Yeah, started the one more thing already. One more thing.
8:36 Central Time. Grab a Bloody Mary.
But Brandon, I would say, what do you think needs to, like, Nebraska's ground game has been pretty good. It's pretty good. Can't say great, can't say terrible. It's pretty good. What do you think needs to happen though for Nebraska to break some runs? Right? Just the breakaway 30, 40 yards downfield or a house call. Nebraska's been it feels like there's sort of a cap at about 15 yards, or something where they're not breaking them right now. What do you think is that downfield blocking? Is it running back vision? What do you see there?
I think for me, it's probably more on the backs a little bit. Like Dowdell runs really hard and really physical. It's making a guy miss. I think Emmett Johnson is their best kind of big play threat there. And we'll see if he gets some more touches, with the way that Illinois game kind of unfolded. It didn't lend itself to that a ton. So we'll see if they make an effort. I mean, that would be something that would tell me a little bit about where Nebraska's head is at, in terms of coaching staff in this one. So the big play piece in the run game is the part that's missing. They're able to stay on schedule that way, which is good, but eventually you need to be able to hit a couple. And that often comes down to just a running back making a play.
Yeah. Okay.
Vogues, what do you got rocking? Big Cat on counterread.com. How do folks sign up and tell everybody about it?
Yep. Head over to counterread.com. It's twice weekly newsletter from myself and Aaron Sorensen. So today, here in a little bit, we'll launch our live game day chat for subscribers. So everybody can join that if they're subscribed. And then come Monday, I'll kind of have my game review / look ahead to what's to come for Nebraska. So it's I wrote in the preview this week. It feels pretty high stakes for a 11 a.m. game at West Lafayette as a 10-point favorite. So there's going to be plenty to discuss based on what we learned today.
All right, Vogues, we love you, bud. Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Brandon Vogel, the Iron Horse, back with us. Gary,
good morning.
Sharp, how are we doing, bud?
Hat free today. You're normally a hat guy.
Yeah, because I'm going to get a haircut right after we're done here.
What are we going to do?
Out, get a haircut, get back. You know what? I'm going to go with the French crop.
Okay, that's great.
If people know when you have a receding hairline, what that does. So
we're
in between that and buzz cut too, because I'm not ready to get rid of all of it, but reality is starting to set in.
Yeah, try zero fade on the side, where they just they get the shaver out and you just get right to the skin.
No, I think you could go with the Raiola haircut where you go with the line down the side, leave it a little curly on top. It could work.
Yeah, wasn't that called the Boz before Mahomes and Raiola came along?
A little bit.
I call
You
it,
needed,
I call it
multiple
TikTok
lines.
now. That's just TikTok. All the TikTok kids have the same haircut, and that's what it looks like.
Coach Brandon Kool-Aid in the stream. Gary, you look good.
Oh, whoa.
Well,
Okay.
those are positive affirmation at 8:40 a.m.
It's either that or that type of chat, fellas.
You have everything about Sharp Street's
Hey,
friend.
buckle up. It's 11 a.m. Bring your own energy game.
That's pretty good.
Oh,
Sharpie, how we feeling?
That's how you're bringing. Sharpie's bringing the Celsius energy on an 8:40.
Yeah.
Morning. That's how you get it rocking.
I've already been up. I've had my walk. Did my 6 miles. So we're good.
Nice, dude.
6 miles. Elmwood.
Uh-huh.
You kind of hit up Elmwood.
I go the other way. I go down by Grover.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know where I live in Omaha.
It's a nice area to walk in. You live in a good spot.
Yeah,
Good
you
part of
know,
town.
it's sometimes when the sun doesn't come up till 7, it can be a little tricky, but
Yeah. But that's why you wear the reflective helmet.
I like walking in the dark, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Somebody once made a song, Elijah. This is gonna date some of us. Dancing in the dark. Thank you very much.
Courtney Cox.
Yes. How am I feeling about today?
Yeah.
I think, Nebraska hasn't earned the right to play a get right game against Purdue because Purdue's beat them 4 or 6 times. I want to see Nebraska bounce back today, but I also want to see them elevate, not just get by today. I mean, you're now staring at an unbeaten Rutgers next Saturday in Lincoln, and maybe Rutgers will be ranked, but I need to see Nebraska elevate today, especially on defense where they need to make a statement. Whether they are what they are, they need to get back to playing the kind of football that allows Nebraska's offense to contribute and helps complementary, and they look good playing today, not a team that is like, well, what is our identity? Because I will tell you this, the one thing they have balanced in Lincoln this week is the embarrassment of the way that game unfolded, especially the second half, but also trying to stay the course of, for 2.5 quarters, we'd only given up a field goal, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, they were looking at it that way and, okay, what's going on here? And they had a chance to, put the hammer down. I don't know. I think they learned. They learned some lessons last Friday. We're going to see sooner than later if those have been applied.
Second half woes have been a thing when it comes to production.
Yep.
All right. And is that a counter adjustment thing? Is that a lack of focusing? What do you chalk it up to?
Well, I mean, a couple of those second halves, like the fourth quarter, are wonky, where you're playing a lot of different guys. I think one thing, Nebraska looks like on offense, they are really good with the script. Like they rep what they're going to run at the beginning of the game, and they look really, really good. And then they come out in the second half, and it's not just this team. If you go back to last year, it was kind of Nebraska struggled running the ball in the second half. So adjustments or sitting on a lead, I think, needs to change. But they have to find a way to run the ball when they want to run the ball, whether it be at the beginning of the game, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. I think we're getting further and further away from what Rule said about running for 75 yards in the fourth quarter. But today is that weird dynamic, guys. You know this. You guys have all talked about it all week. We all have. Wow, it's very tempting to say Nebraska should run the ball 50 times today, and they're going to have 350 yards. It's the balance today of the weather, the fact that other teams have run on Purdue, and the fact that you have DR-15 at quarterback. And are you going to take the game out of his hands when, if you need a big play, he can probably get you a bigger play than running the football can?
And that's what I'm saying, Gary. There's already been teams on your schedule where the game plan realistically probably should be run the ball 50 times on them. Colorado, you circle in particular. I think you also look at UTEP. Their front seven wasn't strong. Go back and look at what Nebraska did. I know those are tune-up games where you're trying to get yourself right. Colorado a little less so. But Dylan Raiola still had 25-plus passing attempts, I believe, in both games. I'm not sure if he got there for UTEP, but I know he was close. Like, Nebraska still aired the ball out in those games. So if you think Nebraska is going to go run the ball 50 times today and give Raiola 10 to 15 attempts, think again. I mean, Nebraska has shown you what they are offensively, and that's a team that's probably going to run the ball between 25 and 35 times and throw the ball between 25 and 35 times. In an ideal world, I think, in Marcus Satterfield's mind.
It's as a card-carrying member of the Run the Ball Club, you can't blame Satterfield with 15. That dude, it's for all the talk about Nebraska's defense and lack of run game and, losing the close ones, whatever, the criticism that comes in, it's almost like we just gloss right over and maybe don't even talk enough about Raiola. He is an absolute witch, dude. I mean, that guy is, I've never seen anything like that in a Nebraska uniform. I'm not kidding. Some of those balls that he completed, I'm up in East Stadium in the corner. You can really see a development of plays. You can really see who's open, who's not. It's great.
That's
great
code for he's not in the lower bowl.
Well, yeah. I have.
I love you. I'm just
but true. Like seriously, yeah. It's commensurate with my donation and how much I pay, so I get it.
How's the way?
You sit up there for the angle. It's because, man, that angle you get on the play, it's just so much better, right?
I know, right? It is. Now, the thing is, Raiola, the thing that you notice from up there is like there's somebody open on every damn play, right? Like pretty much.
Yep.
He misses those guys so much less than previous quarterbacks. Like he usually finds that guy, even if it's not an easy throw, even if it's across his body, underthrowing somebody, across the field, like ill-advised, but like he generally finds the open guy. But beyond that, dude, he is throwing into situations where the opening is like 0.2 seconds. And it's like weaving between two closing safeties and dropping over a linebacker. And that guy is crazy. He is absolutely nuts. The balls that he can get to players that there's maybe 3 or 4 other quarterbacks in the nation that can do that. He's ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
He had some Sunday throws last Friday. That's for sure. So that's as an OC, it's like we know we have to run the ball. Maybe we don't have for what our strength is in the running game. Maybe we don't have the right running back in the game at the time. But man, I always know that I got the right quarterback to throw the football. I wonder if Satterfield, and it's like the luxury of, okay, if we're not able to run the ball, we still got 15. He'll take care of it. I mean, the reality is if 15 doesn't play well, Nebraska might be in trouble. I think that's how we've gotten to going into week number 5 because they right now don't, and this is the first road game, so bear with me when I make this analogy. I don't think they've established something that's portable yet, where they can go week to week that they know exactly is going to be the real deal that doesn't involve 15. Like you'd like to be able to say we can run the ball and stop the run, doesn't matter where we're playing. So they're still trying to find their identity, but I think it's the balance of, man, we have this guy that can spin it. Do we rely too much on him? And I wonder also if we get maybe today is, do they go with the quick game? And in an OC's mind, that is like a running play. Nebraska's starting to rack up more passes behind the line of scrimmage where you get it in space and tell guys to just take off. If they start to use quick game, and that is quote unquote our running game. If we can't get to the edge, that's the quickest way to get to the edge where we don't need a blocker out there. Maybe run some wide receiver screens. But I also think today, guys, if you're in a touchdown fantasy league, Ja'Cory Barney is going to be a key guy. I think Nebraska will try and test the edges on a jet sweep more than we've seen with him this year.
I do want to see Ja'Cory somehow protect himself a little more.
Yeah,
that dude gets lit up.
Well, I think they'll teach him. I think they'll teach him how to take a hit. But that's the thing he does. He's rubber band man. Well, he gets dropped and gets right back up.
It's a reality of playing at that size. I didn't say it after Thursday Night Football, but I thought about it. Like, did Wan'Dale Robinson need to run between the tackles in the Big Ten to learn how to take a hit in the NFL? Because he's pretty good at it now. I mean, maybe Corey Barney way too. Maybe you just got to run him in between the tackles until he toughens up a little bit.
Barney's a spry, nice athlete, man. Nebraska hasn't had a lot of guys like him.
Well, I mean, here's the other element that has been a prevailing theme this week. The guys that played well last Friday are guys that just got here.
Yes.
Okay. So they
don't baggage, brother.
They don't have the past dictating the present. They're out there just balling. See, that's what, can Nebraska find the guy on defense that is Raiola? And I'm saying with the infectious, energy out there, just having fun, also has got an attitude. That's what I did not like about the defense last week is when it got tight and they were getting physically moved off spots. It became, man, they got tight. And you saw, I thought Rule was really tight in that game. I mean, he's not free. He's supposed to be free and easy. And here we go. It's fun. And man, we got all this emotion. We're still winning. And if you looked at the body language last Friday night, going back in the times, if you're watching the TV copy, you can see the sidelines. You would have no idea which team was on top. Because there was times where Nebraska was on top and you thought Nebraska's sphincter was going. They need to find a way to get back to having fun. Because I don't think they've had fun for 2 weeks on one side of the ball.
You've noticed it defensively, because the one thing I said after UTEP and after Colorado was the defense played violent. They played with a chip on their shoulder. They looked like they were out there to hurt people in a very 1990s Nebraska black shirt-esque way. Like they were going out there to hurt people. You haven't seen that the past 2 weeks. Like the last 2 weeks, do you see any Illinois wide receiver, any Northern Iowa wide receiver truly get lit up by like Deshaun Singleton coming down and making a play? Like that's kind of what this defense was built on the first 2 weeks, was guys coming down, flying around and making hard hits. You haven't seen that the past 2 weeks. Where'd that go? Like you don't want to see targeting on your defense, but there's got to be a couple plays per game where the defense instills a bit of a fear within the offense, a bit of a fear of coming across the middle. I'm not encouraging targeting. Let me lay it out. But that's an important part of defense. It's making the offense think twice about where is this hit coming from. You haven't seen it the past 2 weeks.
Well, and there's also, I mean, we all get paid to analyze this kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it comes down to guys making plays. Mm-hmm. Guys are better than what they've shown the last 2 weeks. Now, they may not be a defense that is elite, but there still should be a serviceable defense that does the right things and gets you off the field when you need to get off the field, which was an issue last year. But they got to have guys that just make plays. I mean, I can't play in a Big Ten game when my top 3 defensive players are 5, 15, and 1, and 5 is the guy that is the returning guy in Bullock, and he was great last Friday. I need the guys that are dudes that have been here before to be some of your best players. And thankfully, they had Sierra Wright, who may make some decisions that you say, hey, could we move Buford? Could we do something with Hartzog? Man, Sierra Wright might finally have turned the corner. Maybe that's a positive on defense. But you're right, Elijah. They need today is a day to get started quick. 2 straight weeks, the opposition has said, screw you. We're going to run right at you. We're not going to run away from you. It's going to happen again today. Purdue was a really good rushing team last year, 3rd in the Big Ten. They got Maccabee and Love, and there's things they haven't done well the last 2 weeks, but they've still run the ball well. So instead of running away from Nebraska, they're going to try and run right at them. And if you're a defense, you're like, whoa. They don't have. They're challenging us. Well, you got to step up to the challenge. But I'd like to see Nebraska. They had 7 3-and-outs in the first 2 weeks. They've only had 1 since. But stop that opening drive. 2 straight weeks, Northern Iowa and Illinois have driven down the field and gotten points. And it's not just, hey, it's a 4-play drive. I mean, it has been lengthy drives. I'd like to see Nebraska step up right away, set the tone. They just need to get in rhythm where they're playing complementary football, and we'll see if they can get that going sooner than later today. Because I think if you could jump on Purdue and you get some energy, 11 a.m. game, you're on the road, you get a lather up, then you could start feeling good about yourself and start to get deep into your bag, which Nebraska was able to do the first 2 weeks.
It's a 1-2 and an attitude thing. You talk to coaches and players about stopping the run. It really is. And you got to get out there. Sharpie, you've got the Polar Bear and Ty Robinson that they have played a lot of snaps. The reinforcements that come in as deep as we talk about Nebraska's D-line being, to the point where Van Poppel's the red shirt reality or candidate for sure. This is his type of ball game. Last week was his type of ball game, because the guys behind Polar Bear and Ty, more so Polar Bear, haven't been getting it done. We haven't seen Nebraska keep those big dudes off the linebackers. We haven't seen the safeties come down and fill the run. It's got to stop, and it's got to change today. But it's really kind of a look in the mirror ball game for me about, all right, that box, what do you do to keep from getting owned again?
Yeah. Elijah brought this up on when all of us were together on Sunday, and he's absolutely right. Nash got washed out. So what did they do with Ty or other people on the field? Because then you play a numbers game and you're like, whoa, Nebraska has an advantage. Riley Van Poppel, I'm a huge fan of. I think Riley Van Poppel could go to a handful of Big Ten schools and either start or be in the rotation at defensive line. They made a choice. Thought it was curious that Rule said, he thought about it Friday night, but it puts more onus on Vincent Jackson.
Yeah.
So that when he comes in, he's got to hold his own and he's got to make the next step up. But they got to. It's just an attitude thing, play with confidence, play with violence, find the football, but do your job. I think Nebraska, against Northern Iowa, they had some bad run fits. Against Illinois, they just got overpowered, especially beginning in the second half. Today, they're going to face a more athletic offensive line, not an offensive line that are road graders, but a more athletic offensive line. And how do they adjust? This is a Tony White bounce back game as well. They got to put him in the right position of where, guys are and adjust during the game. If you're getting physically manhandled, what can you do to dial it up? I think one thing Nebraska needs to do defensively, Nebraska needs to stop being vanilla and banking on that they can get to the quarterback with 3 and 4. You know what? They've shown that they can create havoc when they have plus pressure. Let's see that today. Let's get after Hudson Card. Let's see what he can do. He hasn't been good the last 2 weeks. Put some pressure on him, but don't rely on 3 guys up front or 4 guys getting to the quarterback. You know what? Bring somebody off the edge. Take a chance.
And I've wondered if the lack of blitzing is because of a lack of trust in the secondary. That's what I wonder, or if it's the Rule kind of mindset of, hey, we want to get home better with Ford this year. But yeah, aggressive and blitzing is what makes this defense. And I think this is
disguise
game.
Yep.
This is a havoc game for your Husker defense. With as bad as Hudson Card has been so far this year, you're going to take your chances, I think, with him one-on-one coverage on the outside. I think you need to get after him and just get after this Purdue offense in general.
Yeah, a little more stimming, a little more stunts, a little more blitzes, disguises. Yeah, just something that makes it a little bit tougher on the O-line and quarterback might be nice. Diving into the numbers a little bit, Devin Maccabee, pretty interesting and something to look out for today. The difference in his productivity is remarkable. So normally teams between the 20s, they have just better success, right? Because the field's less compressed and you can just get more yards. But his are super pronounced. From his own 20 to the 40, he's at 11 yards a carry. So look out for that today, right? Just
yards after contact, boys.
And then between the 40s, he's at 13.5 yards a carry, right? You get him inside the red zone, though, it drops to 1.75. So I'm saying that just to maybe not be surprised if in the middle of the field there's some chunk plays today. But Purdue has generally fallen down quite a bit as they get closer. Their red zone's not good. Their run game's not as good. But he could maybe break a few middle of the field today. If Nebraska can take away that, that's all they have going for them on offense. That's all Purdue has going for them.
Can we flip this conversation? And I think, as we've made it through the week, I think Nebraska's still a good football team. Are we? Yeah. Are we having these in-depth conversations about some of the things that ail Nebraska if they won? Even if they had issues or not. So I think that's, again, that and Schmidt, that's the balance this week. If you're the head coach of, guys, we're still a good football team. The season didn't end. It's just some of you just got here. Some other people have been here for 20 years, and this is how you feel when you lose a game where the movie looks exactly the same. So I think that's Rule's challenge this week to get them ready to play an opponent where everybody's going, did you see you're a 10.5-point favorite? Yeah, lost 4 of the last 6 against Purdue.
I look at the spectrum here of, all right, they're back. Oh God, they're terrible. It's one or the other.
It's what we do following this program.
Right, because you're waiting for the good news to stay and sustain, and you're waiting for these moments to right itself when it comes to the tight ball games, the pucker factor, and then just all right, you thought one thing and the opposite was true when it comes to run defense.
And it also comes down to, we kind of laid it out earlier, it comes down to scar tissue for me with this Husker fan base. You've seen this team hurt you before, and the teams that have hurt you before go out on the road and lose to a subpar Purdue team. That's what they do. It's scar tissue that comes into it, where
there's so much fear. There's storm clouds. Oh no.
You set the expectations low, so whenever they inevitably disappoint you, they don't disappoint you as bad. And I think Husker fans started to buy into it before the Illinois game. What happens? You inevitably get hurt again. If there's any guarantee in a Husker football season, it's pain, emotional pain watching this Husker football.
Yeah. Hey, so let me.
So you're setting yourself up to not be disappointed at 2:30 today.
Now,
people are going to lose their mind if they lose today.
Yeah, and they should. Honestly, they should.
Yeah, there would be questions. The mixed results of year 2, there'd be a lot of deeper questions. But let me pose this to you guys. Nebraska offensively, there's a lot of things to like. You would like it more if they could run the ball when they wanted to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to put up points. I mean, it's all about points, ma'am. It's all about points. Bo was right. Nebraska hasn't, against a Power 4 or Power 5 team, scored 30 or more since they last played Purdue, when they scored 31 in Lincoln. But I go back to Friday night. Is there a way, if we're still trying to figure out this defense and they're trying to figure out themselves, is there a way that the offense, besides scoring points, can help the defense? Is it more than just staying on the field? Because there were times I thought, as that defense was wearing down last Friday, man, that offense, if they could have strung together an 8 to 10 play, 4.5-minute drive, that would have been super beneficial. So is there a way today that the offense actually can help the defense in this game?
Yeah, you would hope. And it does.
Points. Yeah.
Well, and you would think that, it just feels like there's still, it feels like Nebraska can make improvements on the ground, right? And I think it gets to, Brandon alluded to it, like some of it's running back vision, some of it is running back rotation. Like Emmett Johnson hasn't touched the ball enough. I don't believe. So you want to get him a few toes, because he's your best chance at making something happen off script. And then I think today too, I would not be surprised to see Harburg, just because of the specific problem that Purdue has had with running quarterbacks. And everybody has those problems, but it seems like it's really bad with them. They're giving up 300 plus yards twice. Running quarterbacks have killed them. I could see you mixing in some more Harburg intentionally today, not to threaten Raiola's job, but just to be like, this is who we're playing. They can't deal with the running quarterback. Harburg's pretty damn good at that. Yeah. I would like to see Nebraska do that. And here's another thing that popped out, to your point, Gary, about the passing game maybe being an extension of the running game, is Jamal Banks stood up last week. That was his coming out party. You hadn't really taken advantage of what he does yet. You hadn't seen him a whole lot. I feel as good as just about any play. Like, give me a back shoulder short fade to Banks, or a curl, or a quick out, or something like that to Banks. It just feels like it is a certain 5 to 7 yards, right? Like, the guy's going to block his guy out. Raiola's going to deliver it perfectly. Like, I don't know if Banks is going to break many tackles. I don't know if he's going to get a lot of yak, but he's a pretty sure-handed guy that I think you could even target him more than you have been targeting him so far.
Yeah, they, and it's kind of funny in the passing game, after what we went through last year, is we're back to having this tight end discussion. I think they have plenty of options, and you have a quarterback that can do all that. I agree with you, Mark, on Banks. I think wide receiver screens may be the way to go, to mix in a little bit, to get guys in space, and then just let them take off. Instead of trying to run those deep, bang routes, and you have a guy that can put it, in the breadbasket. But I'd like to see him just get into a rhythm, move the sticks and move the sticks again. But we'll see. I mean, this is a team that, got to adjust on the fly. The availability report just came out, and there's no surprises on it. Your left side of your line that started the year against UTEP is not there today.
So we go, it's Gatula, Jenkins, Scott, Lutovsky, Benhart. Yeah. Is that Nebraska today?
And you know what? And I Mazuka is what Mazuka is as a loss. But that's a serviceable offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's solid. It's solid. It's not road graders. They're not going to win whatever that award is for the best offensive line that Michigan wins every year. Yeah, they're not going to win that. Probably don't have an Outland candidate or anything like that. or Remington candidate. But
the thing is you lost your potential like first team All Big Ten guy. That's what I think Mizuka's level was. So that's a potential first team All Big Ten guard. That's a guy that I don't think is going to be involved moving forward. That's a tough loss.
Yeah.
But while we talk availability here, Gary, to flip it around to the other side of the ball, it seems like Javen Wright is going to be available. He's going to be a go for the Huskers Day. He has traveled. He is out there on the field. I know you're a guy that's been high on Javen Wright. What kind of difference do you think he can make for this defense?
I think he's on a pitch count, but I think they will pick and choose when he plays. He's had a good week of practice where they tried to test him a little bit in terms of his just conditioning. He's healthy. I mean, he's cleared, so he's back, but it's just being in game condition where he can give you 20, 25 snaps. He's a guy that, man, we saw last year. He was coming. He finally had turned the corner. The only thing that has gotten in Buddha's way has been the health. When he's been able to play football, man, he shows you he got a little bit of daddy in him. And daddy was a pretty good player. Daddy was a hit sticker, but daddy was a smart football player. That's another thing. Nebraska on defense needs to be smarter. They were so undisciplined last Friday, but they also either over pursuing, bad run fits, not locking up. This idea that I think they've changed their philosophy on tackling this year, where last year, the first guy came in to make the tackle. The second guy came in to try and dislodge the ball. It looks like this year they've turned into old USC defenses where the first guy is trying to get the turnover and the second guy is trying to wrap up. Have they worked on that this week? But Buddha is a guy that I think can do both. But, man, he's got length. He's got speed. He's got a really good football IQ. And he's another guy that can play in space. I think this is a game that's played in space today. I think we just talked about getting Nebraska wide receivers in space. I think Nebraska has to be good playing in space against, the lack of pass catchers for Purdue. But if they get Love the third out on the edge, so whoever does well playing in space, I think will benefit greatly on the scoreboard. But he's a guy that I love playing in space, and he complements Gifford. But when he's on the field, what does the rest of the guys look like? That'll be what I'm going to be curious about, because if he can give you 20 to 25, man, that's a huge step, because there was a portion when it first was discovered that he was going to be sidelined that I thought, man, is that going to be the end of his career?
Man.
You look at Purdue, it sounds like and I haven't seen the Purdue availability report, but their top two wideouts may be out on top of a struggling passing game.
Yeah.
So it is imperative that these guys may get 100 on you, but it better be 50 carries for 110.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be this repeat, rinse, recycle of 4 to 6 on first down. And it sure as hell can't be that way in the second half today.
Yeah. And what kind of respect will Nebraska have for Purdue's passing game? You're absolutely right, Schmidt. 3 of their top 4 pass catchers last year are gone. Teams came in and bought wide receivers off their roster. One of their better wide receivers last year is the leading wide receiver for Oklahoma. They lost a couple of guys at Oregon State. They haven't been able to move the ball down the field through the air. So does Nebraska? We see the lack of respect for Nebraska's running game from defenses the last 2 weeks. Does Nebraska show a lack of respect for Purdue's passing game? Do they load the box a little bit more to get an extra guy down in the box because they're going to have Maccabee run them as a hammer? I think Purdue has turned. I think there have been years like when Braum was at Purdue, I think Purdue said, let's play basketball on grass and we can outscore Nebraska. Mm-hmm. I think what they'll try to do today is play this game in a phone booth. I think it's important for Nebraska to get out of the phone booth and make this game attract me.
Okay.
Because I don't think Nebraska, when the game is slow, does well. I think they need to have the game with pace.
Okay.
Gary, as we kind of wind things down here, I know you have a haircut to make it to. We're high time for one more thing on a Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity.
You're hedging the one more thing, aren't you?
We'll get into the one more thing here, but I do have one more thought on this before we inevitably have a couple more one more things for you. Does style points matter today, in your opinion? We led off with Brandon with this question. I'm going to ask you point blank. Does style points matter today? Does how Nebraska gets it done matter if they do in fact get it done?
Yes. I think we're past the point of, hey, just win the football game. That's, of course, the most important thing. But as I said earlier, I got to see Nebraska elevate today. All right? You're in game number 5.
Go kill
okay?
somebody.
There's still a ways to go. I can't see let's just survive this game. because the month of October is looming. The month of October will tell me more about where this program is than November, because all of a sudden you're going to face an unbeaten team. Then you're going to have a bye week. Then you're going to go back on the road. You're going to face a team that could still be unbeaten and they might be ranked. And then you know what's looming at the end of the month. And you've had a loss probably earlier than a lot of guys thought they would. So what do you do today? I think sets you up for October, but definitely I'm in the camp, Elijah. I got to see something today. I can't just see hey, let's dance with Purdue. You're a 10-point favorite for a reason. Go out and show people you are that way. And also do something that needs to turn the corner, and that is to win road football games. Yeah. Last year, Nebraska was 1-4, but I don't want this game to be a tight game. I would love to maybe, see, okay, how do they react this time? They played tight games. Like, what is it? 5 straight Big Ten games have been 7 points or less. I don't want to see a tight game today. Yeah, I want to see Purdue, I want to see a game in the fourth quarter. You have game control.
Purdue's dead last in the 18-team Big Ten against the run. I mean, that's a team you just got to obliterate. You just got to obliterate them. And I'd like to see Nebraska take a little page out of like the Indiana book right now, where, by the way, circle Indiana. They are drilling teams right now, and it's running the ball, and it's also playing defense. Like, that's what surprised me a little bit the most when I started diving in, because you knew Illinois or Indiana had got some W's, but hey, they're coming. That's going to be a competent outfit that Nebraska plays. Rutgers is going to be a competent outfit. This is that game where you have to build confidence and just bludgeon a team, right? And maybe that's exactly what Nebraska needs offensively, running the ball, is to go against the worst rushing defense in the entire Big Ten. Want to point something out too, with Nebraska defensively against the pass, like you were talking about. I wonder if there's something to just, in terms of Nebraska not being able to get off the field and other teams seeming to complete a pretty good percentage. Nebraska's also played 2 super accurate quarterbacks, right? Altmaier has not thrown a pick, and he's, 12th in the country in percent. He's 71.4%. And then on the other side, it's Shedeur. He's only thrown 2 picks. One of them was to Tommy Hill. But is there maybe something to the fact too that Nebraska has just played a couple quarterbacks that are pretty damn accurate? And I'm not sure you're going to face, outside of Ohio State, you're probably not going to face quarterbacks with that pinpoint accuracy that take that good care of the ball quite like they have so far. And will that make a difference in Nebraska's success defensively getting off the field too?
Oh, I think so. It's, are they going to dink and dunk you to death again? Yeah. Instead of going for the big knockout, are they going to go for the body punches? And it comes back to you got to heat the quarterback up. You've got to make the quarterback pay for holding on to the football, but got to win the line of scrimmage. I mean, this is the Big Ten. I mean, look at last night. How that game, Washington-Rutgers, was played in a phone booth. I mean, they just beat each other up on the line of scrimmage. You got to win the line of scrimmage and then go from there. And if you win the line of scrimmage and you make a team one-dimensional, man, you are cooking with peanut oil. So, I mean, they're all the dynamic. Nebraska needs to get back to playing complementary football where their best players play up to what they can. And if they do that, they're going to be fine today. They're a good football team. They just need to remind themselves that they are a good football team that's got some warts, and they're probably not in the tier where we maybe want to put them, but they're still a good football team that if you win today, you're 4-1 and you're coming home to play Rutgers, who's unbeaten and maybe ranked, and you can change you can start the narrative again all over.
You can
yeah.
One of several more things. So level of concern you have 2 weeks in a row, Nebraska 15-yard variety penalties were a factor. It's 2 weeks in a row. Level of concern for that, Gary, or aberration?
Dumb football.
Not that big a deal.
Dumb football.
But does that continue throughout the year?
Well, no, we'll find out if they corrected it this week. I mean, they were a dumb football team. I don't know, guys. I saw defensive guys that talked this week. Tony White is Tony White. He's the same every week. I saw some players that have been here for a while, like an Isaac Gifford. Those guys were embarrassed.
They should have been.
They were embarrassed. Okay. Now That's not the side of the ball that you're thinking, Jesus, is that the reason Nebraska lost? They didn't play well. I think they started to sniff themselves after Colorado, and they tried to ride the wave of Colorado.
Sniff themselves.
That's
overlook Northern Iowa because, hey, we had the Colorado hangover, but we were going, damn, those yards after contact by the big backs, and you got Illinois. I think they were overconfident last week. They got a wake-up call. I would imagine in practice this week that has been reiterated. That's why if you see a less than stellar effort from the defense today,
problems.
We'll have some deep discussions next week because you know what's looming next week. Maybe the best running back and one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten.
Level of concern about special teams.
Oh, what part of special teams?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the whole thing, right? So, like, okay, put it this way. Which unit, and you can't say extra point kicking unit. That doesn't count. Which unit do you feel okay about? And which ones are you not okay with?
Hey, punt return's been all right.
That's it.
Yeah. I think they have a different philosophy on kickoff returns, but punt returns, yeah. Guys, they had a snap where in a field goal that would have probably decided the game, the guy almost kicked the laces. I mean, how is that possible?
It's like, have you never watched Ace Ventura? Like, what do you
right. Damn Ray Finkel.
This is, and I think we also have to have a discussion about Buschini because this happened a couple of years ago where he was not kicking to the right spot. Guys, Nebraska lost a football game in East Lansing because the punt went the wrong way compared to where the Gunners were. Yeah. You blew a game there. You allowed extra yardage. Look at all the extra yardage by either penalties or special teams mistakes you allowed Illinois to have. I don't have a lot of confidence in special teams. As a whole, there are, like Elijah alluded to, punt return has been okay.
It's 80th, by the way. That's how low the bar is. It's 80th in the country. Nebraska has 6 returns, 43 yards, but that's way better than it's been.
There's nobody here that says, man, if Nebraska has to win a game with special teams, either a big return, a block, a field goal, pinning of the punt, you're going to be able to do it. They need to be better, okay? And we got to go on this one. What would you guys do? Nebraska drives down the field, first drive of the game. They stall at the Purdue 22, 4th and 3. You could put the ball in the hands of 15, or early in the game with a 39-yard field goal, you trot out John Hull. What would you do in the first quarter, first drive or first quarter to try and gain some confidence?
I just got anxiety.
People aren't going to like this. I kicked the field goal. I kicked
the field goal because it's early, and if he misses it, I don't go back to it.
Gary,
the thing is, if it's a tie game in the fourth quarter in the same scenario, which it feels it's still a 0-0 ball game, but it's the fourth quarter. He hasn't kicked one yet. I'm going for it. But the confidence building aspect in the first quarter is big to me. If he misses it, you're not seeing him the rest of the game, though.
Yeah. Gary I think, really great job on like putting us in Rule's shoes and understanding why he makes millions. Because that's an anxiety-inducing question right there. That I'm like, oh my God, I don't know, because whatever you do is not good. So I think you kick it, to Elijah's point, just to know how Hull showed up today, right? And if he boots that one, if he misses it, if he misses another 39-yarder, you then know, at least for the rest of the game, we ain't counting on our field goal kicker at all. Like, period. We just know that now, rather than waiting to find that out when it matters in the fourth.
The correct answer is you hand it to the fullback on 4th and 3, Kraynak.
Bonner. Get it to Bonner.
Rathman.
Right. Yeah, that would help.
Or
Schlesinger.
You run something that has been worked on the last couple of weeks in practice. He doesn't keep it, but they have got a sprint option as availability on offense.
With Raiola?
But he doesn't keep it.
With Raiola?
Yes. Because remember, Satterfield likes deception. The pass play to Lindenmeyer in the end zone, nobody in the ballpark except the guys on the headsets and the guys on the field where it ends knew that was going to be a pass. Illinois looked at the personnel and said, come on, bro. You guys are running the ball. Next thing you know, you have 3 wide receivers that were running so wide open. And you had a miss by Raiola on the play, who probably in the distance saw Lindenmeyer break free when the crosser with Borkature was open, would have been a first down. He likes deception and playing the numbers game. And so they've got a sprint option that they can use that Raiola doesn't keep it, but nobody would in their right mind would be thinking until I just said it, hey, Raiola's running an option.
Mm-hmm. And that's something Purdue struggled with.
They've snuck in the quarterback zone read keep.
Yes, they have. So they've slowly started to incorporate more of that stuff to make you think. So maybe today is one of those days that you try that stuff. Who knows?
Sharpie, give me a prediction before we send you off to get your ears lowered.
I think like everybody has gotten to this score, 31. Well, I've heard a lot of 31-17, 31-14.
Okay.
31-14.
I think that's a comfortable victory, and it gives you enough to get ready for, boys, I'm telling you, monster game next Saturday in Lincoln.
And it's, to me, what this week is, if you can get it done today, is it becomes the road to redemption and another chance at home against a team that's probably going to have a number in front of its name in Rutgers next week. That's what this week is to me. It's the first step on the road to redeeming yourself for that Illinois game. You got to get it done today. Yeah. You got to build some confidence today. But if you can do that, next week becomes your redemption game to prove, you know what we showed against Illinois isn't who we are. That's what's on the line. Is you have to start it today with some confidence, but that's what's on the line next week. Not to look too far ahead or anything.
You sell the shag and wagon and you get the moped.
The what? The shag and wagon?
Yeah. Kraynak, you got it.
We didn't hang out when we were single, did we?
No.
Dang. I would have been in Cooperstown.
It's the old Dumb and Dumber. Totally God. Redeem yourself.
All right. Got to go find some good Wi-Fi for the Peacock.
I'm hoping it works outside on the patio.
God, I'm just hoping that the person that I'm borrowing it from, their 4 other family members don't want to watch the game at the same time.
Hey,
no.
One more thing. Can we give Bielema his due?
I'm second in line at my barber.
Dude, he's sprinting.
Yeah. Sounds cool story, bro. One more thing. Can we just give Brett Bielema his props? I hate it. It's dirty. I had forgotten how that dude uses fake injuries as if Brett Bielema rolls into every game with 9 timeouts. Like, seriously, it is deliberate. It's unstoppable. And like, I kind of don't like it, but I also respect it because literally that guy has unlimited timeouts. His whole team gets it. They trot over to the sideline. The trainers got their arm around him.
Get a little water.
Pandemonium. They wait till the next play starts. The refs aren't watching anymore. And then the guy's just fine. And it's like, oh my God. Like, how does that guy pull this off all the time?
One more thing I always forget about Bielema is how he's got that little patch of hair in front of his headset that holds on for dear life. I thought he was going bald 10 years ago and like losing it. It was all receding. It's the exact same. You know what I'm talking about? That little.
And he puts product on it.
Well, he just gets bigger every year. And that's what
I'm saying. Like I expected, like as people naturally age, that was going to continue receding. It hasn't. Credit to him for keeping that going because he looks kind of the same up top that he did 10 years ago, and not many men above 40 can say that. So,
hey, Kraynak, good luck at the Kansas Speedway tomorrow.
Thanks, man.
You and Carr, are you in the 38 car?
Yeah, I'm going to be been doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to work today with that shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, I'm not. This is
NASCAR.
This Eric is available for sponsoring. Baby. Yeah, Gary. Yeah, NASCAR. Eric saw him at the K last week. Like. He just came up. Yeah. Royals and Giants, and Royals were on their huge skid. By the way, the K is great. One more thing. Going to a Royals game, pretty fun. So if you haven't been in a while, it's a good spot.
Sharpie's
11
losing.
minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
What would it be like if Illinois won at Penn State? How would we look back at last Friday's game?
Changes it completely.
Penn State 17.5 point favorites on that.
Enjoy kickoff in 90 minutes, boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sharpie, be good, brother. Appreciate you. There goes the Iron Horse.
Don't you take
Kraynak, be 17, good, brother.
What, you got a haircut too?
I do.
No, you don't. You're lying. You're lying to us right now. You're lying to your listeners. You're lying to us. We
can take a second to talk Illinois here.
Yeah.
Oh, it changes your feel. It absolutely does. If they play well and even get beat, you're like, okay, Penn State's a playoff team, we think, or at least they're projected in that
17
conversation.
and a half points, Penn State.
Oh, it's a no-brainer to take. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I think Altmaier's playing well. I think their defense is good. Their run game's for real. Penn State's got combination of physicality and some blue chip recruits. Right?
Yeah. They've been like that for a while. Yep.
So this is the game that if Penn State doesn't give proper respect, then they get stung. They lost to Bielema his first year there at home in overtime.
Yeah.
So this is all about
like a huge number.
Well, Penn State got called out by Bielema this week about how Happy Valley's not even as close to intimidating as Nebraska. So they're going to be, they're going to be from a crowd standpoint. So he was poking the bear with the crowd.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's some bulletin board up, quite honestly, by Illinois for Penn State.
Bielema said they're bringing whiteout energy this weekend, whatever that means, which is usually not what you want to say before a Penn State whiteout. And they had kind of doubled down. It's on a radio show where the host kind of alluded to the fact that Nebraska was a more difficult place to play than Penn State. And Bielema, I don't want to say agreed with it, but definitely didn't shoot down that radio host. So there's been some bulletin board material for Penn State. That's kind of the fear is you go into a whiteout at Penn State and bad things tend to happen to you.
Yeah, and you shoot your mouth off. That doesn't bode well.
They just don't necessarily look like a team that's going to get blown out by 17. Except to maybe like Georgia or
to me,
it's
a crowd factor, but they handled the crowd fine last week. That's what it comes down to for me is it's a tough place to go win. If they handle the crowd well, I think they can cover. If they don't handle that crowd well, I don't think they do. But I think that Illinois team is a classic Bielema, well-coached team that's not going to let a crowd phase them too much. I'll say that, but we'll see. On that note, gentlemen,
is that it?
I think
it is. I am going to go grab 2 big-ass porterhouse steaks, throw them on the grill.
Okay.
Kraynak, what are you doing?
What kind of grill you choosing today for this?
I have an infrared.
You've had that for a minute too.
My dad put it together for me.
What does that get up to temp wise? That's like
about 850.
Yeah, super high temp, right?
Last night I smoked up a ribeye.
Oh, wow. Oh, did you?
Yeah, tell us about 90 and 95 on the internal. They came in and finished it on the cast iron with the sear.
Oh, wow.
And then from a local spot in town here, I got a bone marrow and chimichurri compound butter to put on top.
I hear that's awesome.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Dude, that sounds good. Kraynak's buddy BP, he smoked ribeyes for us.
It's the way to go. It's how you get that nice light smoke flavor. Plus, it also helps you get your internal temperature up kind of in a reverse sear kind of way. Sear it off. Oh, my.
I don't know if I'm going to – I have to go get pellets then. I got a lot of shit to do here before we kick off.
Oh, do you? It's like logistically, you're starting to –
After the events of the past couple of weeks, I had a panic moment there saying, oh, man, I got to dump that out. But we're good.
No, we're good. I knew it. Catch us with Real Red Reaction. We're on immediately following Nebraska-Purdue. Okay,
I might call in on
We'll just send you a link. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I might jump in a little bit. By the way, little annoyance of Nebraska playing on Peacock, like whatever they're playing on Peacock.
I got
switching channels
password,
but switching channels is what sucks, right? Like because on normal, if you're just watching cable or satellite or whatever, you can easily switch back and forth between games without having to get out of an app and go into another app.
I'm going to bring in the second TV outside.
That's okay, right? You need a second TV or something, but it's a very first world problem. But that's kind of annoying, right? Like you can't just
on YouTube.
You can't just go check out.
We have the 4-screen setup, and we're all good.
Exactly, yeah. But when it's on Peacock, it's like you're kind of stuck on there, and then you got to deal with like a 12-second transition to go to your next app.
Some of us
12 seconds back. You're losing 24 seconds. That happens 10 times. That's 240 seconds. That's 4 minutes of your life of just frustration today.
Some of us here don't change the channel during a Husker game, even if it goes to commercial break because they're.
I don't. I'll check my phone.
Some of us aren't bothering checking other games during the Nebraska game, but maybe that's just me.
You just like to watch the ads? You just watch the ads?
I'm fully locked in. I'm not going to
Yeah.
miss a play because what happens when this other game has a good drive going? I come back and I've missed the first 3 plays of the Husker drive. Now
Enjoy
I
your
can't go
Husker Saturday. We'll be back for Real Red Reaction. Probably about 2:15, 2 o'clock, 2:15. You can hear that on.
We're set for 2:15 immediately following the conclusion.
KFOR, KFORnow.com, Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter, KFOR Facebook, and Real Red Reaction YouTube.
I need
All
more
right.
TVs. Sounds
Let's
like.
see if it happens today. See if they bounce back. See if they win, or if it's another Jack Daniels Saturday. Guys, appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man. All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Talk to you post game.